All right, let's get going. I know people are still kind of coming in, but we don't want to waste too much time. So welcome to today's episode of the Uplink. I'm Jacob Swin. I'm the product marketing manager here at Helium. And with me, I've got Frank from the Kroo team, who's going to talk a little bit about their mission to provide telecom support for fleets, helping the people's network builders achieve their coverage goals more easily, and some things like that. So really excited about this episode. Just a quick agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about Helium, just a brief overview, talk just a second about how Helium and Kroo started working together, and then I'll pass it off to Frank, where he's going to do kind of intros for Kroo overview, and then some demo and services overview. And then, like I said, the last 10 or 15 minutes, we'll do some Q&A. And so just drop any questions that you might have into the chat, and we'll get to those at the end as best we can. So Helium was founded in 2013 with a mission to make it easier to build decentralized wireless networks. And just to be able to do that, we've been backed by some of the best VC firms in the world, and that's helped us make this vision a reality. So you can see some of those listed down below, and especially the growth in the last year, the last few months even, has been amazing. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, but we're very grateful for just those VC firms helping us out. Helium is an incentive built network. So with Helium, anyone, anywhere can be rewarded for creating wireless coverage. So that's really cool. You get a hotspot and you can create coverage, and hotspot hosts earn HNT, both for creating coverage and when devices use their hotspot to connect to the internet. So this allows an affordable nationwide wireless network to be rapidly built. So Helium has a big focus on applications and not just the network building. So it's the largest public IoT network in the world. Accelerated coverage. This is really cool to be able to say, because we just hit this number yesterday, I believe, 100K hotspots in over 10,000 cities, 106 countries. So that's a really big deal, and that's just growing daily. But that's a huge milestone for us to hit. So that's been awesome. And the network is still growing, and we've got over 200,000 hotspots on order, so it's going to continue to grow at just a rapid pace. We have a diverse ecosystem of both customers and hardware makers. We've got low costs, so less than $1 per sensor per year for any device sending data every 5 minutes. And to make it even better, it's just really accessible. You can use a Helium network with pretty much any off-the-shelf LoRaWAN sensor, so that makes it very easy to get started. So like I mentioned, we have a diverse ecosystem of hardware makers, with more coming on, approved by HIP19 through the community. We've got Bobcat, Rack, Synchrorbit, Nebra, all of those hotspot makers. Again, a diverse ecosystem of users as well, along with people like Kroo. This is just a few of those partners, users who have come on board with us: Lone Star, Nowie, Lime, Invisileash, Victor, lots of different people using the Helium network for a lot of different solutions and applications. So it's really cool to see all the different ways in which the network is being used to solve real world issues. If anyone's interested, if you're not already following us on Discord, GitHub, Twitter, anything like that, here are links, and I'll put this up again at the end of the webinar too. Like I said, I'm Jacob. I'm the product marketing manager. So my email is just right there, just jacob@helium.com. Super simple. Mark Phillips is our our vice president of business development. He does a lot of the Uplink episodes as well. So his email for mark@helium.com. Follow us on GitHub, on Twitter, very active. And then on Discord, we've got, I think, over 80,000 Discord members. So it's super active on there. If you have questions, if you're wondering about specific things, there's a lot of resources available for you on Discord. So check that out as well. Again, I'll put this slide up again at the end too, so if you want to take any of this down. All right, so getting into the Kroo and Helium relationship. So Kroo and Helium kind of started working together, just a chance meeting early into the pandemic and lockdown led to several hotspot purchases, some installations with professional installers, and an intro to the Helium team. And ever since then, Kroo's been building this service for the community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Frank to share his screen and talk a little bit about Kroo.
So who is Kroo? Who are we? This slide, I like this slide, the title for it. my son was asking me, he saw my Kroo shirt and he was like, Dad, what's that? And I was like, it's Kroo, it's the logo for Kroo. He's like, Dad, what's Kroo? And so what Kroo is and who Kroo is, we're a collection of telecommunications professionals all around the country, people that have been building wireless networks for, sometimes dozens of years, decades, as long as possible. Some people new to the industry, an online marketplace that allows all those telecommunications contractors to place their jobs on the platform, to find work, and to really help build wireless infrastructure in the United States of America. Specifically for Helium, we've taken our platform and our service providers, and we've really adapted those rails to make it really easy to use for the Helium community. We created like a special page that really just allows folks to go ahead and get streamlined orders in place for any of the service. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into some of the services and some of what traditional telecom deployment looks like, kind of give folks here on the call a lesson of what that's like and how we've taken those concepts and those ideas and adapted them and moved them over to the Helium community to really help build the people's network. So traditional wireless deployment, it's like a long slog, a tough process. Here in the United States, we have about 350,000 cell sites here in the United States, and all of them have gone through this process. And cell phones have been around since the early 90s. And so already in the year plus that Helium's been around, you guys are already at 100,000 locations, which is like really awesome. So it's really something to be proud of and something to congratulate yourselves for it. And that's for the whole community, not just the Helium team. So in traditional wireless deployment, why it takes so long, we do a lot of work with network design. So that's deciding how packets get from point A to point B. How are they going to interface? Are they going to go through a core network? Are they going to go through fiber optics, copper, microwave links? How's the area interface going to work to connect, your headset to a cell phone network? From that, the RF engineers, they use the RF tools. Some of you guys are familiar with them. Helium Vision is something very similar to the RF tools used by professional RF planners and RF engineers at a telco location. So they'll plan their equipment, their building heights, and figure out exactly what they want to create an RF signal, what spectrum they have allocated, and they'll start their planning at that point. From there, what they end up with, we call them polygons. They're very similar to the hexes in the Helium network infrastructure or architecture. A polygon kind of determines like, hey, if I have a cell site with these characteristics in this location or this location or this location, it's going to give me the coverage I need to fill my network. And so those polygons in turn go to a site acquisition firm. The site acquisition firm, what these folks do, and site acquisition managers, what these folks do is they go and they look at these polygons, they go and knock on doors, they call building owners, they check existing databases that they may have. And their job is to get sites leased at the best rate possible for the wireless carriers. Once they get those sites leased, they're also responsible for getting all those sites permitted. And so before they do the permitting, though, you need to go get things to the architects and the engineers based on that specific site. So the architects, they come up with construction drawings. The engineers make sure that nothing's going to fall off the roof, that the structures are going to be able to handle the loads, that everything is going to be safe and good to go, and they stamp it. And that goes back to the site acquisition firm who sends it off to the county or the municipality to go get it permitted and ready to go. Once that permitting happens, we have what's called it's called a NTP, a notice to proceed. The notice to proceed goes to the construction crews, and those construction crews typically have to do, it's split between two different types of work. So there's civil work. These are the guys that they'll lay a concrete pad down, or on a roof, they'll come and bring all the steel in place and lay all that out. They might have to do some trenching to put the fiber optic cable to where it needs to go. And then we also have aerial construction guys. These are the tower climbers that you hear about. They're like a super rowdy bunch, but really the unsung heroes of the wireless industry. These guys are climbing up hundreds of feet every day. They're hanging off the sides of buildings. They're eating lunch up there, suspended in the air, really fun group of guys. And they're the ones hanging lines and antennas and making sure everything is all weatherproof, nice and tight, so nobody has to go up there and repair anything. So that this equipment could really survive in the elements. After that, we're still not done, believe it or not. After construction, we head into installation, commissioning, and integration. Typically, this is a whole another technician that comes in, a lot more technical, a lot more skilled. They're actually installing what I like to call the brains of a cell site. It's called a BBU, it used to be called a BBU, and LTE, and 5G, we call it like a CU or a DU. And really that allows those lines and those antennas to communicate with the broader network. They may be plugging in some routers, anything possible, and all the technical aspects of getting that traffic from those antennas back into the core network. And then finally, once the site is up, we do RF drive testing and traditional deployments. And so that RF drive testing, somebody goes around either in really rough terrain with a backpack with some equipment on it, and they look at how the signal's propagating. Is it doing what it's expected to do? Or they have a specialty equipment in a car, you know, typically some antennas on a roof, some antennas in the car so you can see the different coverages that's being created if it has to go through a car. And they drive around and they measure all of the RF propagations and all the KPIs associated with that site. And now that in turn goes back to the RF engineers at the very top of the chain, and they take that information and they correct the site. So they may change the tilt on an antenna, may power it up or power it down, anything necessary so they get the best signal to noise ratio and they're able to get like true RF signal propagated. So that's the long spiel about traditional wireless deployment. For Helium, you know, it's a lot simpler of a deployment, but you still need some services if you really want to get great coverage and great RF propagation. And so what we've done at Kroo is we've adapted some of these traditional services and these traditional service providers, introduce them to the people in this network. Inevitably, when they do that, they want to know more, and I got to explain the blockchain to them, and they start asking, can they order some hotspots? Can I order them some hotspots? And they're like, I'm sure everybody who talks about Helium, you have this. It's really, you guys at the Helium team have really found product market fit, because anytime somebody mentions it, people are ordering these things right away. And so we've taken these services. You know, we like to start, we do a hotspot placement, a site acquisition, and a complete installation. And I'll dive into some of these services specifically on the coming slides here. So our hotspot placement and optimization, this is very similar to RF planning. You know, you as a customer, you come to us, you give us some geographies where you're willing to have hotspots placed, and we're going to go source the best hexes in those locations for you, and we're going to give you search rings or polygons in turn. So now you could either go knock on doors and find leases in those areas. And how we do that is, you know, our teams use the tools that have been developed by the community, Helium Vision, Hotspot RF. We love these tools. We give you back an Excel report with your location, the height, the antennas that we use to simulate it, all the necessary, the cable lengths, all the things necessary so you can understand the setup and the assumptions that we used in the simulation. And we give you back the reports from both Helium Vision and Hotspot RF. So now you have the complete polygon. You say, okay, these locations look good. I feel good about this location, or like, oh, hey, this is my house. I shouldn't put one here. It's oversaturated or whatever it may be. So we really kind of solve a lot of those issues for you up front and get that done so you can find a great location for your hotspot. From there, we offer site acquisition. So when Helium made the announcement to the community about the services that we were providing, we were shocked to see the demand for site acquisition. When we thought about it, though, people in the community, once you get one hotspot up, you're like, man, what happens if I get 10 hotspots up, or 20 or 30 or whatever it may be? And so site acquisition services, we handle all of that for you. Basically, with your polygons, with your search rings, or with your areas, we could take those and in turn utilize our network of site acquisition professionals across the country and source you a lease according to the terms that you're looking for. Depending on your terms and depending on the length of lease you may want, the price may fluctuate based off of that. But like these guys, they're knocking on doors, they're ringing doorbells, they're calling folks, they're utilizing their databases, they're blasting stuff on LinkedIn. They're really going to go and find you a location and do it in a pretty timely fashion and save you a lot of hits. They're going to verify that it's the right owner. They're going to deliver to you, or we're going to deliver to you from their deliverable a signed lease. So now you know you're good to go. You're good to go and place a hotspot at these locations that you've decided with your lease terms and everything that's going to work out for you. And then that leads us to our complete installation package. And so what we've noticed, and these are some pictures of some installations that we've done. On the right is a location in Philadelphia. We utilized a rack outdoor enclosure and an 8 dBi antenna. This location in Philadelphia, at the time that this install happened, there was barely any hotspots in Philadelphia when it originally happened. And Philadelphia is like a very, very flat city, and we could see the city in the distance. So we really decided to use a much more higher power antenna to really send that signal out at time. By the time that hotspot was installed and we looked at what it was able to witness, we saw that it was witnessing another hotspot 20 kilometers away, which really like blew us away, and something that we weren't expecting when we did it, but we were very happy with the results of that. And originally that hotspot was down in a window. I think at the time it was earning somewhere in the order of like 1.5 HNT a day. And at the time when we put it on this roof, it was doing 15 HNT a day. So we were very pleased with the results of that installation, and so was the customer. On the left here, you see this is in Chicago, and this design here in the middle is actually what one of our deliverables from our professional installers. So what they like to do is go to a location and site walk it. The reason why we do that is you never know what you're getting into with an installation. We really tried as hard as possible to come up with a standard installation process and package, but every scenario is different, especially when you're dealing with residential real estate, where, you know, some people have an attic, some people don't. Some people are in a 3-story building, some people are in a single-story building, some people have a flat roof, a slanted roof. Some people have like really nice finishes and they don't want to see any cables, right? Some people don't care. You can run a cable through the wall. So like we really try to figure out all of those things, understand the actual characteristics of the location. Where are we going to get best line of sight? Where's the best antenna placement going to be? What materials do we need to use to actually have the best installation possible? We've partnered with a few different suppliers and traditional RF suppliers, not traditional IoT suppliers across the country, to really deliver full packages of these installation kits. So we get really quick turnaround time. You don't have to worry about any of the components not matching. So we take on all that responsibility. If we order a bad component, we'll fix it at our cost and save you that headache. I know when we were building this service, we really were pulling our hair out. You know, they would be out of one type of antenna, so then we would change that and would have an N-type female adapter on that antenna, but our surge arresters would have the opposite. So now we have to go get a new surge arrestor. It would change all the logical connections all the way down, and so on and so forth. So we just decided, you know what, let's get some basic packages together based off the site survey, have suppliers ready with all of those, get these kits delivered as they're supposed to be, and save a lot of that headache. The amount of time going back and forth to the hardware, electronic store, electrical suppliers, shipping costs, trying to get things done on time, we've borne all that headache, and we're delivering the lack of headache to you. We're unheadaking it for you is what my marketing tells me. And so as you can see, this installation worked out well. We used a non-penetrating roof mount. This place was actually a very high-end townhome in the West Loop in Chicago, which is interesting. It was like 4 stories they're building. The hardest part about that installation, you probably on this diagram here, is that actually goes all the way down because their connectivity and their internet connection and their router came in through their basement. And so what we did was we plugged in all the PoE, we plugged in a hub, and we ran a Cat5 all the way up to their roof. And then we actually mounted the enclosure so they could access it without having to go to the roof in case they need to reset their hotspot. And then we just put the antenna on the roof there and grounded it. So finally, our turnkey service. So bringing all these different services together, or a certain section of these services together, we could basically do any project you might have in mind. So we've had people come to us. There was one customer, they had 80 buildings. They learned about helium. They not only wanted to mine helium or mine HNT, they also wanted to save on their water bills. So these buildings that this customer has are between like 50 and 100 units a piece. What's interesting about a building that size is you get one leaky toilet in one of those buildings, your water bill can, up to 10 grand because of one leaky toilet. So they were like, hey, we want to install these NAUI water like monitoring sensors on our buildings. We heard like helium is a thing. We were like, how do we go about it? So we handled everything for that customer end to end. We procured their hotspots for them. We procured all the equipment. We site walked and planned how we were going to do all the installs, and then we did all the installations. So like that was like a really fun one, and that was really like our first time really testing ourselves in this particular type of deployment and doing it at scale for a customer, and we had a lot of fun with that. These other projects are in progress. So one, the customer wanted to enable. They were like a agricultural company. They wanted to enable a true IoT use case where they wanted to do monitoring of some fertilizer tanks. They had distribution centers that were spread out that may be close to where the fertilizer was or may not be. So we had to run a whole analysis to say, hey, these are like the different heights and antennas that you could use. We contracted out an RF drive testing firm to go see if the signal would actually propagate far enough to where their sensors were going to be. That client in turn came to us and was like, you know, to really get the height we want, we want to make it like future proof. Instead of just doing like a pole that's really high, could you guys put like a wireless tower on top of these roofs of these buildings so we could even sustain it more? And so that became like a really interesting involved project. We involved like tower crews and all these, and like a crane has to come out and actually facilitate that installation, and we got to order all the steel and stack it. So, you know, these are the different types of projects that we could do. And most recently, an investor has come to us. They want to deploy 1,000 hotspots. So we're handling that end to end for them. We're deciding which locations will be best and which would have like the maximum H&T earnings for them. We're going to pick the equipment. We're going to procure all the equipment. We're going to do a whole installation, site acquisition and installation plan, and really try to get those 3,000 hotspots deployed as quickly as possible, material permitting, but that's where we are with that. So what's the Kroo difference? Like, what are you getting? What happens when you buy our service? This is just a quick sampling of some of what happens. So on the right here, you could see two slides, or two screen caps actually, before we took the antenna to the roof. So what they had was, this is like a very high-end Airbnb in Chicago. A beautiful place, like beautiful floors, beautiful walls, really well decorated. And you go inside this Airbnb, it's on the 3rd floor of a building, of a mixed use building. And there's a rack V2 sitting in the window with just the wires hanging out. Like, it looked a little out of place. And so we were like, oh, hey, okay, so we know what to do. We ran into discovery mode from where it was. When you look out the window, it's facing another building. There's no way that the signal could propagate in any way. There's a really poor setup, but it was the optimum setup that they could do in that location. They wanted to start mining H&T. And so what we did is we took that antenna, we took that hotspot, we hid it completely, we put it in the closet, we ran some cable through the walls, changed the faceplates, took it up to the roof, put that antenna on the roof, and it went from ran in discovery mode once we connected everything to make sure that we weren't fooling ourselves. And when we did that, we saw that now all of a sudden that hotspot was witnessing 96 additional hotspots, which we thought was like pretty cool. We're like, hey, we just made your thing almost 100 times better, not quite. And so we were very excited about that installation and what the value we were able to deliver there. On the left here, you could see hotspot Rich Topaz Ladybug. We installed this one exactly 30 days ago, where they had an outdoor antenna actually, but it wasn't optimized. It was kind of in a weird location. It wasn't on their roof. And so what we did was we took their existing setup, their existing antenna, put it on or actually we changed the antenna. They had like a very high power, like 8.3 dB antenna. We changed it to like a 6, put it on the roof, saw what witnesses we got. And as you could see, our H&T earnings went up by 81% in the subsequent 30 days from after we installed it. And that's with network growth of over like 50% in the same time. So we really believe that we've created a value with our service, really taken a lot of the headache out for folks. And the next thing is like, well, why Kroo? Why you guys? I just started studying myself. We've been in this business for a long time. We've done all manners of things in telecom. So I'm talking cable TV installation, direct TV installation, not just like cell site builds. And with that, one of the things that we learned when you send someone to someone's house is it's best that they're fully insured. I've heard so many horror stories about people falling off ladders, falling through roofs. They're walking in your attic and they fall through the floor. If those guys get hurt and they're not insured because you just contracted them, that's your liability. So all of our service providers are completely and totally insured. You're going to be completely covered. Workman's comp, general liability, errors and omissions if they make a mistake. Everything is going to be covered when you deal with Kroo. You're really going to get like a high-end, riskless or de-risked service as compared to going out on your own. All of our service providers are trained and certified. So we've put together a comprehensive training process. Having done like large-scale wireless deployments, learn the hard way that like do not skip on training, get it right up front, because it's really going to cost you in quality and go backs and workmanship, and sites coming down because of bad weather. If you don't have a trained, certified installers that know what they're doing, that are going to do a good job, that are going to take their time, that really care about their workmanship, take pride in their work, they're going to weatherproof, mount and secure your equipment, they're going to tuck your cables in and make sure everything is neat, so it's going to operate for the longest time possible. So that's really what we're providing with our service. And then background checks. A lot of people are asking for folks to come in and install into their homes. We take the safety of our customers very seriously. So 100% of our installers go through a comprehensive criminal background check to make sure that they're felony free and not on probation or anything before they enter your home. So we're very proud of these services. Next steps, if you want to learn more about us, visit us at kroo.us/helium. If you can't remember that, just go to kroo.us, KROO.us. We have a banner right at the top where you could go to our Helium page and select any services you might be looking for. And if you have a large order or like a turnkey project of 30 or more hotspots, just email us directly at heliumsales@kroo.us. Somebody on our team will get back to you. I do a few calls a day as well, just to kind of see what people are up to and kind of learn the lay of the land. So you'll hear back from us within a day or so if you email us there, and we'll be happy to facilitate your order and make your use case happen.
Thanks, Frank. I'm going to pull this Q&A slide up. If anyone has any questions, please drop them into the chat. I had a few for you, Frank. So just, I mean, this is kind of generic, but what are you kind of looking to do in the future as Helium grows, as, you know, you're going to get more, you know, we're getting a lot more hotspots out there and things like that. Like, what kind of plans do you guys have for the future, just for Kroo?
Yeah, so we're super excited about the 5G use case, because that's really in our wheelhouse. We really think we could build like real cell sites utilizing Helium and offload and understand where to put them and the like. So that's something that we're really focused on internally in addition to providing these services for the community and the IoT use case, which we think is really big. We really believe in the market size of IoT, actually. IoT, I think, is projected to be a $3 trillion market in the future, and Helium is at the forefront of that and enabling of that. So we think that, you know, building that IoT business as well is going to be really important for us, and, you know, hopefully facilitating some more use cases and deployments around that as well.
Gotcha. You kind of stole my next question, was plans for 5G hotspot stuff, but no, that's great to hear. Yeah. Just so like expanding into different territories, like what are kind of growth plans for Kroo? I mean, you guys do pretty much everything in the US right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are there plans to kind of expand out of there? Yeah.
There are. So like we've already gotten some inquiries in Canada, and we've started to build up our supply base and workforce and partner with some companies that are doing some of this work already in Canada. So we could certainly facilitate those orders. From there, we're looking to go into Latin America, because our some of our other customers on the more traditional telecom end of things, they keep banging on us for international expansion as well. They're like, hey, we like your guys' solution, but we need something international. We operate internationally. And so we're looking to go into Latin America first, because we have some ties there. We can kind of plant roots and know some people both at multiple levels of government and industry in Latin America already. And that'll probably be in the plans over the next 18 months. And then beyond that, I mean, ultimately, we want to build like a global facilitator of telecom infrastructure builds, like anywhere and everywhere. So, I mean, we do have global ambitions. We understand it takes a long time to get there. We're not as smart as you folks at Helium, where you guys got the global play in 15 months, but, you know, we definitely want to be there and join that in the future.
Yeah, awesome. You know, talked about the 5G stuff a little bit, but like, what are you kind of most excited about with Helium? Have you seen some new things that like Helium's coming out with that you think is super exciting? I mean, it can help Kroo, it can kind of, you know, or just in general, just excited about that?
Yeah, so I mean, in traditional telecom asset tracking, like we call it cool, like tools take legs or they take wings somehow. Nobody knows what happens to a lot of the equipment and tools that we have. And so some of the asset tracking that's enabled by Helium, and at the cost that you could get it for, just is vastly superior to anything else that exists. And so we're really excited, at least from an industry perspective, about how that can kind of change the asset tracking on our industry. We were doing a project a couple of years ago for a tier 1 carrier. And what they were doing is they had all these like spare, they called them plugins, but they had all these spare plugins. It turns out they were spending about $400 million a year on spare plugins, and they actually already had the inventory somewhere where they just didn't know. So something like Helium that will enable them to place a tag on that inventory. Now they know where it is, because, you know, guys put it in their trucks, they throw it here, they throw it there, and it's lost, and they spend another $400 million replacing it. We think that could really create a tremendous amount of savings. I'm talking with a firm who we're really close with, we have close ties with. They're an ag tech firm. They're really utilizing sensors and cellular for their sensors. And I told them about Helium, and they were like, oh, LoRaWAN doesn't work for this. There's not enough coverage. Nobody's really building a network. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, everybody's building a network now. And so I showed them the coverage map, and they were blown away. And they started immediately started developing some LoRaWAN technology to enable their farmers and their uses.
Awesome. Awesome. There are a few just kind of general questions in the chat. Like someone asked, what's a general cost to use your service? Is that better if they kind of contact you through the website, or do you have an answer for that now? I mean, I know it varies a lot.
Yeah, it varies a lot. So to give you a gauge, we've had installations cost as low as $500, and that's probably the standard installation process for us. We've had installations where I'm talking about hey, we'll build a tower for you. It's going to cost you all your installation for us to build a tower for you. And so we could do anything in between and anything above that. From a site acquisition perspective, you should see costs anywhere between $700 a location and up to a few $1,000s a location, depending on how aggressive the lease you're trying to achieve is, how long it's going to take, what are your requirements. If you're trying to go on a traditional wireless tower, there's people that handle that, but that's a lot longer process than going on a residential rooftop somewhere.
Okay, nice. And then someone followed up kind of the cost of a site survey. Same kind of answer for that one.
Yeah, so no, generally, a site survey, we charge a flat rate of $275 for a site survey. Somebody will come out and they'll evaluate your site. They're going to deliver to you an installation plan, what we think is an optimal installation plan, and a bill of materials. And if you want to contract us for installation services off that site survey, we're happy to facilitate the installation as well. So we'll provide you a quote of what we would quote the installation for. But if you just want the site survey, we're hey, here's a setup that we would use here. Here's where I place everything. And that's all you want. We're happy to do that as well.
Gotcha. And then I had one person who said they'd like to talk to Kroo about, expanding into Canada and things like that. If you want to drop that email into the chat and they can just contact you there, probably is the best, you think?
Yeah,
for sure. All right. And then I had one last question for you. I said we hit 100K hotspots the other day. How many of those 100K do you think you guys have had a hand in installing? It's your chance to kind of brag about this.
At this point, that we've actually installed, probably about maybe a little over 300 at this point.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. All right.
We've ordered a lot more is the thing. That's the hard part, is that we've ordered a lot more for folks that we're in to install those, and we're excited to go out to the field and get those up and running.
Yeah, no, we'll follow back with you and bump that number up a little bit soon. Let me see if anyone, are you guys, I think that's the end of questions from what I see. I'll give them just another minute here. Sorry, I gotta pull this other slide up. Technical stuff. If there are no more questions, and it doesn't look like there are, someone says they have an entire city for you to work with. So they might want to contact you for that. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, please, Kyle. We'd be happy to help.
Yeah. And yes, there is a recording of this. It will be up on YouTube. I believe McKenna dropped the link in the chat. If not, she will. Just, final thoughts here. Here's contact information for myself, Mark Phillips, our Vice President of BD. Get in touch with us, GitHub, Twitter, Discord. And I just want to thank Frank and everyone at Kroo for coming on and presenting. And that was really cool, man. Thanks. It's really nice to learn about all these different people using the network and how it's growing and things like that. So thanks a lot, Frank. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is awesome.
All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you. We'll see you next time for the Uplink.